I'm Jessica Knapp from Canada's History Society. I'm here at the Manitoba Museum to take a look at some artifacts and specimens that tell us about the history of Manitoba. Some of these pieces will be in the Legacies of Confederation exhibit, and some of them will be behind the scenes. Showing us around today will be Dr. Amelia Fay, curator of the Hudson's Bay Company Museum Collection, and Dr. Randy Moy, the curator of zoology. So let's go meet them. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
So we're here at the Legacies of Confederation exhibit, and I'm wondering what the story is about here. What are you trying to say in this exhibit?
Well, what we wanted to do was look at the influence of natural history and human history on Confederation and what happened in Manitoba from 1870 all the way through to today.
So the exhibit really was a collaboration with all 7 curators here at the museum. So we really tried to look at what was happening in Manitoba at the time and then continue that forward. So we've got some really great artifacts and specimens on display.
Okay, what's first?
I think we can start at the beginning of the exhibit, actually. It shows some really nice things from who was here in Manitoba even before Confederation was an idea.
Okay, excellent. Let's go.
Okay, so this first case in the exhibit really represents the peoples that were here first. We really wanted to get the message across that there were people here long before Confederation was even an idea. So we brought in some really fantastic archaeological artifacts that you can see up here on the pedestal. In particular, item number 3 there, the Clovis Point, represents the first peoples to come into Manitoba after the retreat of the glaciers about 11,000 years ago. So there's some really great examples of the type of craftsmanship that was involved by people living here in Manitoba and working with the natural environment. So a lot of these artifacts really show how diverse the cultures were that were here in Manitoba before Confederation. People were making beautiful things for a long time. Trade was important here in Manitoba just like anywhere else, again, long before Europeans even arrived. So a lot of the archaeological artifacts there really showcase how there were vast trade networks all across North America and people coming together and trading different goods. And when people like the Hudson's Bay Company started coming in, and they built off of those trade networks. So they didn't reinvent the wheel, they sort of played into what was already happening here. And so a lot of the materials we see on some of these earlier artifacts, like the glass beads, like the silk fabric on the dog blanket, those would have been things brought in by Europeans for trade, and Indigenous peoples kind of quickly adopted them into their usage.
In Manitoba, the treaty-making process began before Confederation and continued with Treaty 1 being signed in 1871. Not all promises that were agreed upon made it into the written treaty, so additional documents were created. This document of outside promises includes details regarding land rights and clear language about treaty payments. This document is on loan from Roseau River Anishinaabe First Nation, where it has been kept in the family for over 140 years. It provides a great example of how the Manitoba Museum is working with Indigenous communities to represent their histories.
Once Manitoba had joined Confederation, there was this huge influx of settlers from the east to begin farming, and that created a hugely transformed landscape. Many organisms were influenced by that, because changing from native grasslands to cropland completely changed the kinds of organisms that could live here. So some of the specimens that are in here are things that have sort of come and gone. The greater prairie chicken there actually came with the settlers from the south, became very common in Manitoba through into the 1930s, and then with changing farming practices yet again, their numbers disappeared and they're now extirpated from the province. They no longer occur here. The white-tailed deer fawn that's in there, we all know how common white-tailed deer are. Some of the first records of white-tailed deer in the province was in 1880. So they too came from the south, entered the province and became very successful, and now offer a lot of great wildlife experiences for people.
One of the exhibit's strongest messages is that natural history and human history are often linked. For example, Manitoba's history contains records of many locust infestations. In 1868, an infestation caused a famine in Manitoba, which had yet to join Confederation as a Canadian province. When Manitoba began receiving famine relief from Canada and the United States, some Canadians, including Charles Mayer, claimed that the aid was only going to the Métis. This motivated Louis Riel to write one of his first political letters explaining that the relief funds were in fact being distributed fairly among Manitobans. Riel's walking stick is also included in the exhibit, as well as a surveyor's chain similar to the one Riel famously stepped on to prevent Canada from claiming land without honoring the rights of the people living there.
So Amelia, how does the human history part of this exhibition conclude?
We wanted to bring it forward into today. So we wanted to talk a little bit about not only that first influx of people that were coming into Manitoba just after Confederation, but how Manitoba's been a place where people have come, newcomers have come to Manitoba constantly. So, we talked about the first peoples in that beginning case, but here on the left-hand side, we talk about people that are still coming and making Manitoba their home today as well. So that's one side of the story. And the other side, we wanted to really address how there's been kind of a strained relationship between Canada and Indigenous peoples. And we didn't want to ignore that because that's a very important part of the story. So this particular case here talks a little bit more about things now that we're talking more nationally about truth and reconciliation and what does that mean as a nation. And so we wanted to bring in some things too that tell that side of the story. We have this beautiful Norval Morisseau painting that I think really helped kind of bring that Indigenous voice into the exhibit as well. So we wanted that to carry through. Not everything about Confederation was fantastic for everybody, and that's something we can't forget.
Can I touch it?
No.
Okay. Had to ask.